Alright, hello you crazy people out there, this is DragoniteSpam, and this is something I wanted to do for a little while now, with regards to making videos about Game Maker for YouTube. And that's going to be pretty much making a video game from scratch, like from the beginning, and then continuing that for, I don't know, a couple months maybe, until the end. And I decided that I'd be doing that with a tower defense game, because similarly, I wanted to make a tower defense game for some time now, but just haven't ever really gotten around to it because I've been too busy with other stuff. So I figured this would be a good excuse to do that. So I did a little bit of initial setup here, and I have myself a room. As you can see here, I have myself a couple sprites and a tile. The tile is going to represent the path that the enemies are going to be walking along, and the sprites are going to be the enemy and the towers. Obviously, these are not very nice looking graphics. I'm going to be touching those up later on, but since graphics aren't very important at the beginning of a game development project, I'm not really going to worry about that for probably a little while now. Let's see, if you're not familiar with tower defense games, basically you're going to have a path and you're going to have enemies walking around it, and you have to take out the enemies not by like controlling a playable character that walks around with a sword or something, but by placing towers along the side of the path that like shoot cannons and arrows and fire and stuff at the enemies. It's an interesting little strategy genre. If you're not familiar with it, I suggest you go look it up now because, well, obviously, if you're making a game, you should probably have a decent understanding of how the game is going to work. Anyway, like I said before, this is completely from scratch. I don't have on my other screen right now a lesson plan or anything like I usually do with these videos. There was one failed take on this that I decided I didn't like my commentary on, so I threw away. But that was only about 10 minutes of game development, so it's not anything major. I'm still going to be pretty much figuring this out right from the beginning. Anyway, so let's see. I'm going to firstly make myself an object, and I'm going to call it enemy, and we're going to assign it the red sprite. And I'm going to make myself another object, which is going to be the controller. By the way, I've been sort of formally doing this during my other Game Maker videos, but I should probably draw attention to it now. I'm going to be using a Java-like naming convention for probably most, if not all, of this project. That being things like object names are going to be capitalized, variable names, and things like sprites are going to be a lowercase camel case. I'm probably not going to be using any underscores or anything. Probably not going to be prefixing any of my resource names as like obj underscore or anything. I guess you could call this like tile sand prefix, but whatever. So anyway, this is going to happen, and let's see. First, I'm going to go and stick this controller object in the room, and then after that, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to draw out the path, I think, and then I'm going to have the controller spawn enemies on top of it. So let's go to tiles. Let's go to tile set sand, because I went and made this a tile set, this little option right there. So let's do that, and we're going to draw, how about a very fancy looking squiggle. It's going to be going this way. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. No! Stop that. Dang it. Alright, there we go. I'm hitting the wrong button for delete many. Also, by the way, if I sound funny, I kind of still have allergies. Let's see, I'm going to call this this first path the level 1 path, and I'm going to probably want to change the name of this room to level 1, just to make things clear. Let's go over here, let's overlay that one level on top of this, and let's see. Okay, so that's the top. Let's go and start drawing ourselves the path, and it's going to go pretty much here, there, 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 and there. Paths are a resource type that I'm going to most likely be talking about a lot in this project. I made last week's video, 2 weeks ago video on paths for a reason. If you're not familiar with how they work, I'm going to put a card on the screen right now that should direct you to that video if you click on it, so that you'll be caught up to speed on that. Essentially, they're just a series of points that objects can follow and move from one point to the next without having to do any like special fancy code to do that, or with minimal code to do it anyway. Anyway, controller object. First, I'm going to say, let's see, we're going to spawn enemies at regular intervals, and we're going to set them on the path. So let's say alarm 0 equals how about 30. Actually, I'm going to make this every second, whatever that happens to be. So I'm going to say alarm 0 equals room speed. And let's see, in the alarm 0 event, we're going to say once again reset the alarm, and we're going to do instance create. The position doesn't really matter because it's going to be set to a path immediately afterwards, and the object is going to be that fancy thing. Alright, and let's see, I'm going to want to assign this to a variable so I can do things to it afterwards. Let's just say var en e. Normally I would, actually I can use the letter e, because that isn't the constant 2.71 in the in-game maker. So I'll just say e is that instance, and we're going to next path start. We're going to want to use that with constructor there. Path part path start. That's how you spell it. And the path is going to be level 1 path. Speed is going to be how about 8 pixels per frame. End action is going to be path action stop, and absolute is going to be true because we don't want it moving relative to a starting position. Obviously, this enemy spawn code is going to be a lot more complicated later on, but let's save the game and run it. But this just to get things started. I'm going to be doing this, and it's going to be very simple. So let's see. Yes, okay. So every second we're spawning a red square, and it's moving along the path. It's kind of off center because the spread origin is in the upper right instead of in the middle. So I guess because we can and because it takes 2 seconds, I'll set that to middle, and we're going to do that again, and it should be corrected. So now, yeah, now they're following the inside of the path there. All right, let's get out of there. I should probably also honestly make the room background like, I don't know, light blue or something like that, so you can see the path. There you go. Higher contrast, stands out better. All right, let's get out of there. Next, let's see. I'm probably going to want to go into the enemy, and when we get to the end of the path, there's no need for it to exist anymore. So we're going to use this fancy end of path event, and we're going to say destroy yourself or delete yourself or whatever you want to call it. And that's just so that they're not going to be sitting there wasting computer resources being processed and stuff. Next, I'm going to make the tower objects. Let's see. We're going to call that tower, and we're going to give it the blue sprite. And I think, because I know this is going to look weird and it's going to drive me crazy, I'm going to set that spread origin to the middle too. Anyway, let's see. Let's go back to the controller object. We need a way to create these. So we're going to say mouse global left press. So anytime you press the left mouse button, you don't necessarily have to be clicking on controller sprite, which is good because it doesn't have one. We're going to be saying instance create at mouse X, mouse Y, and it's going to be tower. Alright, simple enough. Obviously, once again, this is going to be more complicated later on, and I'm clicking and I'm placing towers down. Actually, I'm going to want this to be, is this left button? Oh, it's left button. I'm going to want it to be left pressed, so it's not spawning all over the place. Let's try that again. So, I do wish this would run a little bit faster. Alright. Honestly, even actual code that I try to compile was a lot faster than this. GameMaker 8 was a lot faster than this. I guess it has to do with the way that they rewrote it, the runner. Anyway, let's not harp on things taking like 10 seconds instead of 2 seconds. Next, I'm going to want to say, I don't know why I opened that up, but I'm not interested in that right now. Next, I'm going to want to say the tower is going to be shooting bullets at the enemy. So let's create another object here, and it's going to be named very creatively bullet, and it's going to need a sprite, which I should have done before I started recording. So I'm going to call this, let's make this a little black circle, and it's going to be, let's see, a circle, color black, that's not black, and we're just going to fill in this, and then I'm going to shrink this a little bit because that's a cannonball, that's not a bullet. Let's make that like, how about 8? Even that's probably going to be a little bit big for what I want, but who really cares? The bullet is going to get that sprite, and let's see, we're going to go into the tower, and in the step event, once again, this is going to get a lot more complicated later, but for now I'm just going to say in the step event, instance create X, Y, so add my position, and it's going to be a bullet, that's spelling, Admittedly, my spelling so far been better in this video than it has been in the past. I don't want to say that too loudly because next time I know it's going to take me like 5 minutes to spell the word if, but we're going to say, so we're going to assign this to a temporary variable so that I can use it later, and we're going to say with bullet, it's going to move towards, let's see, what do I want it to move towards? It could be, at this point, either the first enemy in the room or the one that's nearest to the tower. I guess, for the sake of the people watching this who are interested, I'll explain both. First, to get it to shoot at the instance, the first instance, the one that's farthest along the path, I'm going to say direction equals point direction, and it's going to be from my x, my y to the x and y of the first instance in the room. That sounded redundant, but I'm going to say var e is going to be instance find, and it's going to be not a bullet, but an enemy. I'm suddenly really hungry. Enemy, and its number is going to be 0. I don't think I've ever talked about this instance find function before, but this basically takes all of the instances of a particular type, puts them in a list, and it lets you access whichever one. So it essentially allows you to keep track of all the instances. Say in this case, if you have a lot of things like generic enemies that are being created and deleted very fast, you could keep track of them by putting them in an array or a DS list or something like that, but this just makes it much easier. I will definitely be talking about this function more in the future, so don't worry if you don't get it now, you're going to be seeing a lot of it. And we're going to say, we're going to move towards the x and y of e, x, and e dot y, and speed is going to be, how about, let's make that 8 as well. And we're going to save that, we're going to run, and I'm going to go and, let's see, click down here, and you can see it's shooting bullets at the nearest enemy, except that there's a slight problem, and that by the time the bullet actually reaches the position of the enemy, it's long gone, so it's not actually hitting anything unless it's like by accident, like over here, and I'm going to fix that. Another thing I should probably fix, I'm going to run this again, but I suspect, I click now, yeah, that's going to cause an error, because it's trying to shoot at an enemy that does not exist. So to deal with that, I'm going to say if instance number of enemy, en whatever that says, if that is greater than 0, then do this, otherwise don't do anything. This, let's see, okay, there's no error. This, as you would probably expect, like the instance find function, it's going to tell you how many of an instance type is in the room. In this case, enemies, so if there's 0 enemies in the room, you're not going to shoot. If there are more than 0 enemies in the room, you are going to shoot. And now, you can see, I'm just going and spamming. Okay, that looks really crazy. This is kind of hypnotic. This is honestly kind of hypnotic. This is also going to, like, send my computer RAM usage through the roof. And if I'm going to go and open up the task manager, I'm going to have a look at that. Let's see. Yeah, that number is going up kind of faster than I really want it to, so let's get out of here. What was I saying a minute ago? Yeah, it's not going to try and shoot if there isn't an enemy to shoot at, and it's not going to crash, which is what we want. I'll deal with the thing where the bullets clutter up the game and make the RAM level skyrocket later, but for now, I did say that you could also shoot at the enemy that's nearest to the tower, and that would be, instead of instance find, I'm going to get out of there. I think I only have to change one line of code here, but E is going to equal instance nearest. Okay, good, that's a actual function. And X is going to be obviously X, Y is going to be Y, and the object we're looking for is going to be the enemy. This is more straightforward than instance find. This is quite obviously going to find the instance of enemy. I hear a dog scratching herself in the background. The instance of the enemy that's nearest to the object, and now this is like so hypnotizing. Now it's shooting at. It would be easier to see if there weren't so many of them, but it's shooting at the enemies that are nearest to it. Alright, so let's get out of there, and now I suppose this would be a good time to address the problem with the bullets. So now I'm simply going to say if you leave the room, so we're going to use the outside room event. The good old delete yourself line of code, so that's all I'm going to do there. Let's see, this should, I minimized Task Manager, and I'm probably going to want to keep this up, but now, when I do this, when I spam a lot of things, we're going to see that the RAM level for this is not going to skyrocket. It's really no big deal in the beginning, like right now, but it's something that I'm definitely going to want to keep track of. This is, like, ridiculous. Alright, well, on that note, I think this is a good place to end this video, so for now, I hope you all enjoyed that. Rate, comment, and subscribe. I'm going to probably be posting one of these every week, maybe more often than that, depending on how much people want to see it. If you have any ideas of things to implement, let me know, and I'll do it. As I usually do with these sort of projects, I'm going to put this over for download in the description of this video, or you can just go and recreate it on your own, since it's pretty, it's not very far along right now, it's pretty simple. And before this makes me any dizzier than it already has, I will see you all later.